I have a question for you. So being a virgin and, we're talking about men having objection to body count, would you, and you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable, would you feel comfortable losing your virginity to a guy who had a body count of 20 or 50, or do you care about the guy's body count that takes
Good
your
question.
virginity?
I mean, if we're in a relationship and I feel comfortable with him, I wouldn't care.
Okay, so he could have slept with 100
like 50
men.
women before you?
I mean, I have a limit as well, but like
You wouldn't get-
20, I'm like okay with, I guess.
So what's your limit? Like, hands down.
This is a really interesting differential here between men and women, though. And Rachel, maybe you can weigh in on this. Is even the virgin woman has no objections to dating a guy who has a high body count, sleeping with a guy who has a high body count.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree, but
Well, that's what I was going to say is like morally and ethically,
Right.
from my Christian worldview, ideally both people are very virtuous as far as sex, and hopefully both virgins when they're married. That'd be great. That'd be the ideal. That's what we want. But in the real world, we run into this problem where women don't care about men's body count. In fact, a woman, if there's like a 25-year-old guy who's a virgin, they're like, what's wrong with you? Right?
Right, they almost look down. They're like,
Yeah, they're
what
like,
have they
what?
been doing?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, whereas we see guys who can rack up a high body count as desirable and successful sexually. Like, we see other women want them, so we want them.
Yeah.
Even us, like, good Christian virtuous girls tend to like the charismatic guys who all the other women want. It's just kind of how things work. So when people get pressed about it and they're like, well, why can't, we should have the same standard for both. I'm like, well, that would be fine if women held men to that standard, but they don't.
I mean, I kind of do. I mean, if I see a guy with like a high body count, I don't see it as like, oh, like STDs or whatever. I mean, I would hope they're being safe, but I mean, I know, but I look at it more as okay, they're probably a player, and they're probably not someone who's going to treat me right.
Yeah.
That's the big thing I'm looking at.
But you said you objected to them caring about your body count. So why
well,
are you allowed to care?
I'm more
but
like,
they can't?
it's not personally for me. Like, I don't care. Like, I mean, I like, that's why I kind of brought up the whole, like, what if they messed around a lot in younger years, but then say 5 years later, they're not really doing that anymore. And because, like, I care more about the personality it brings forward than I care about, like,
So you don't think that, like, say someone was super sexually promiscuous in their 20s and then they had that 5-year break and they're like 31 and they're like, I'm better now. You don't think that sexual promiscuity would have an effect on them later on in life?
I think if they're responsible.
Mr. Bull